live from downtown.
What is the video that you were talking about, Isaiah?
Oh, Joe Biden farting on
I guess we're gonna
live television. Let me see if I can find it.
Oh wait, I have to put this in the other window now.
Right.
I was watching The Amazing Lucas.
Amazing Lucas. Is that an anime?
Yeah. Nah, he's a black Republican.
Oh.
He used to wear a MAGA hat. But then he saw Trump wilding, and then he started wearing like a American flag hat. So.
Takis. Oh. Wait, where's the link for the Joe Biden thing?
I'm looking. I can't find it. Yo, they taking this shit down.
Really?
Bro, they don't want this man to get slandered like this.
Look on Live Leak.
Where's the water?
Oh.
I need more.
Oh. Here, I'll get it.
Thank you.
This is price.
Oh.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody else is looking for it. The fuck? Where is this shit?
1 second, guys.
There's only one bottle of soda left. I forgot to mention that. I'm sorry.
Bro, they're literally over here censoring shit, bro. I can't find it.
Oh,
Everybody's
no.
looking for this shit, dude.
Alright. So,
I might have to just send you the Amazing Lucas video.
Here's what I'm gonna do.
Fuck it.
With the Amazing Lucas video?
Look, I'll just send you his video because they over here taking this shit down.
Alright. Well,
They're acting like this shit didn't happen.
here's what we're gonna do.
Here-
Oh, that's hot.
I wonder why.
I'm gonna eat it still.
Oh god.
Oh my god.
Holy shit, dude.
Is this video?
Well, it's a reaction, but I can't find an actual video because like news stations and YouTube's taking it down. They don't want this man getting exposed. God damn, dude.
Alright, hold on a second. Hold on.
This dude's a straight clown, bro. Joe Biden can't stay out of this shit for 1 second, bro. Literally this time.
We'll just do aerial phones.
Oh man,
Alright,
that's pretty funny. Did you watch the video, Will?
No, I'm loading it right
Let's
now.
all get a good laugh at Biden's expense. Are you ready for this?
That shit was fucking disgusting.
Or stop work on roads and bridges. So, what does the human cost? Or stop work on roads and bridges. So,
Did you watch the? Watch the
fuck is
guy's
happening?
face. Watch the guy's face on the right. Watch Governor Tom Wolf. Watch his face when Biden lets one loose.
what does the human cost?
Wait.
Or stop work on roads and bridges. So,
Blinks.
Dude's fucking
face.
crazy, dude.
His face was like the meme of like.
Dude, I was just gonna say that.
Okay.
His face is just like that meme. You know that meme, Josh?
No.
Bro, that meme, you know the meme. Hold on a second.
The one where the guy blinks, like his doors are open, they close, the door opens again.
Dude was like, what the fuck just happened? Dude was mind fucked, dude.
That one?
No, not this one.
Oh, that.
Will.
Oh, God.
Will.
Yeah.
The other dude was like zoned out listening to Biden talk. Dude, Biden's fart literally broke him out of the matrix. He was like, what the fuck, where am I?
Wait, I
He
gotta
was
put that in chat.
confused. Dude said, where the fuck am I? Bro, that shit is fucking
I have to
stupid.
be careful not to expose my search history on here
Oh, yeah.
since we're streaming.
Dude, you're gonna
Oh
do this.
man.
This is literally the
hilarious.
meme that the guy's taught. It's so funny. He said, "Whoa, come again?" Oh god.
That's
so-
crazy.
That's so bad. That's so embarrassing. That's so sad.
Bro, that's
That's
not the
your
most
bodily
embarrassing thing
function.
he's done, though.
No.
That's the funny part. This
Look.
shit is tame compared to most of the shit he's done.
Plus, yeah, I don't feel bad for him.
Dude
Oh,
literally
man.
has dementia, bro. I don't know what to tell y'all.
Well, what's that? How do we know he has dementia?
Cause he forgets shit every goddamn second. Dude, he said he was running for like senator or some shit, dude. Or he said he was running for the house or some shit.
She's good.
Mm-hmm.
The dude's a
I
fucking.
think I can probably put more than 6 up.
Maybe. How many are left?
A lot.
Oh dang.
Sweet. Well,
So who are you gonna vote for then, boys?
I don't even know who's running.
That's going to be a negatory.
Just no to the question.
As
know.
you were saying, Will.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know who's running. Like,
you got the guy that declared war on the people, and then you got the dude that's like calling people pony soldiers and shit, farting on TV.
is there
It's
any?
Biden versus Trump. And I don't know who the libertarian candidate is, if there is one.
Is there anybody
that
that's
shit ain't
good?
happening. No.
Okay, well then I'm probably not gonna vote.
If I was gonna vote, I would probably go with Trump because it would just cause controversy and funny SJW stuff.
But Josh, you declared war on the people. Though.
I don't care what you do.
So, you want
Okay.
there to be World War III for JW's band content?
Sure. I already lost my job. I'm not losing anything else. Fine.
I mean, why not? I guess.
We're good.
But Josh, you can always get another job.
I've
with
been
him not in
trying.
office. With him not in office, you'd probably have an easier chance.
Oh.
Have you ever thought that he might be the reason you don't have a job?
Well,
Because he's currently in office.
Yeah.
all I know is I was up until 5 a.m. watching the election 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Dude, Biden might hire you and forget. And if he doesn't remember that you're working for him, he can never fire you. That's big brain right there.
Oh,
Dude, that's actually genius.
I'm dead ass.
I hope my uncle inherits his mother's dementia.
Oh my
He'll
God.
just forget that like I'm working for him.
He'll forget to pay you.
Oh yeah, he already has. He was supposed to pay me. Oh wait, I'm streaming. Fuck.
Oh shit.
Fuck.
Rip that.
I mean, your mom's not gonna watch it, so.
Yeah. Well, moving onwards from that. Moving on.
Yo, you know the funniest thing Joe Biden said?
What?
He was like, well, if you don't vote for me, you're not black.
Oh my God.
That shit was funny to me, dude. The way he said it, he was mad. He was like, he's like, you don't vote for me, you're not black.
I think I saw something like that on Snapchat. It was like on one of the trending stories.
That's such a slimy like campaign tactic. To say like you're not what you not only are you not what you believe in and stand for, but you're not what you are literally are. Like what the fuck? Like how does that even work? He's taking away your own self if you don't vote for him. Yeah, if you don't vote for me, then you're not yourself.
I have no idea what his platform is, but that guy is the 2020 libertarian candidate, so there is a third guy.
Bro,
Oh, okay.
when Joe Biden was on stage and like he was arguing and then he like looked at the cameras like he was lost, that shit was funny. I wish I had that video, bro. He looked like so confused, like, why am I here? He was looking at the cameras like, God. Bro,
God?
that shit was funny. Bro, that man was looking at the cameras like he was looking for help. He was looking for help, bro. He was like, can someone put up a card?
Wait, have you guys seen the video of Trump holding the Bible?
Oh
I
yeah.
didn't see the video, I've just seen the pictures.
Oh
Yeah, I
my
see a
god,
picture.
he's holding it like he never held a baby before and he doesn't like know where to grab. He's just like, how do I do this? It was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Wait, you didn't see the comparison picture? They
No.
got him right next. They got him next to Hitler, and it's the same pose.
Oh my God.
I'm dead ass.
Mm.
It's literally the same pose, dude.
I believe it. All right, so are we ready to get into this
Hitler, J. Trump.
discussion here?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. You're usually kind of the moderator, Will, so why don't you start us off?
Yeah. So
Oh my God.
Where's the moderator Nick at?
Jesus Christ.
Nick is the moderator of nothing.
But I was told he was gonna be here, the moderator.
You want me to ask
Hey,
him?
you can add him.
Yeah, sure.
He's
Sure, why
online.
not?
He's
Make it
on. Oh shit, he
spicy.
replied. Hey, we're
Sure, why
starting
not?
now. Yeah, let's get him in here. Hold on a second. Hey, we're starting now.
I wonder if he's been in the riot things.
Depending
Definitely
on how it
not.
goes, though, I may disconnect if it goes left.
I
Which it
mean,
probably will.
yeah, let me see if I can get him in here. I don't know how to add him. Can someone like add him here?
It's some
Sure.
good Reggie, bro.
Shit. How to,
Oh,
yeah,
no.
he said yeah, invite. I
How the fuck do I invite this dude, bro?
forgot how to add people to calls.
Bullshit.
No, I like.
How?
I used to be. I used to be so.
Yeah,
like
do
if
that.
you can press on.
All right,
this.
let me do this then, since you can't do
In
it.
the top
Oh,
right,
I
top
think-
right, add friends to DM.
Yeah, that's what I.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Okay, I don't know how you did that. I literally have been doing that.
I want to know what banyan means.
It's an anime
Manga?
thing.
It's probably some anime.
Wait,
Hmm?
you know John Yon?
John, the Mexican kid?
No. What the fuck?
Oh.
No. What?
I thought you said
Who the
John.
hell is that?
He was from Quechua. He's a little Hispanic kid that Ricardo hangs
Oh,
out
you talking
with.
about a dude that would just stand around?
Yeah.
Like, hey guys, what you doing?
Yeah.
Hey guys, what you doing? Oh, you sound like Speedy Gonzalez.
I think okay. Nick said he'll join midway through, so I don't know what that means since he doesn't.
That means
Okay.
he's not joining. That means he just wanted to see if you add him.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Alright, how do you kick some?
I guess we'll. No wait. No wait. No, let him join just in case to see what happens.
You can watch the live stream.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Banyan is an Indian tree.
An Indian
Oh.
tree?
Yeah.
The
Oh.
John Yon.
So we're live.
We weren't live already?
No, we are live.
Well,
We've
I'm
been live.
I'm just telling Nick that we're live.
It's been 11 minutes.
Yeah, it's actually been 11 minutes and we haven't even started it yet.
Dude,
Is anybody tuned in?
No.
No.
dude. Joe Biden's funny, bro. People are arguing with him like, I'm not going to vote for you for this reason. He's like, well, don't vote for me then.
Great,
Fuck
it's
you.
not even
He's like,
show.
don't vote for me then. Bro, dude is hilarious. He said, well, don't vote for me then. Fuck him.
That's why people voted for Trump. It's all about
It's what it is.
showmanship at this point.
It's called be a good sport.
Well, I guess we're not gonna wait for Nick then, since he's gonna join later. So
Oh, he's not going to
yeah.
join.
yeah, or not. So I was thinking, last week, Chris, you were talking about how we were gonna like pick up next week with like reasons to believe in God or reasons to be a Christian, I guess.
Yep.
I might be butchering that. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, for the most part, I had proposed that as what we can talk about this week, and I have things I was thinking about over the course of this week.
All right.
Wait, what are we talking about? I'm sorry.
So because last week we were talking about faith, and
Was
it
I
kind
there?
of, yeah, kind of. You were there for the first 5 minutes, then you left for an hour. You came back, and you're like, what I missed
For another 5 minutes.
I'm sure I contributed something.
You did. Actually, you did, because we were talking about like different maps of reality, and then you were like, can blind people think? And we started talking about that. So yeah. So that it kind of ended with like, why is, or we were trying to define faith first of all, and me and Chris came up with a
To be unsure.
well, I think
Ooh.
the definition that me and Chris agreed on was, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, was like that it's basically synonymous with trust or confidence. So if you can use trust, confidence, or faith interchangeably. Does that sound right, Chris, or did you have something else that you wanted to add to that?
That I initially proposed, which I would still stand by.
Oh.
Which is trust.
Yeah.
But I would expound a little bit and say trust in the authority of another to prove something that you cannot prove with your own abilities.
Like the creation of a building.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, yeah, you could say that you have faith in like the carpenter.
Yeah.
So I
God
guess
wouldn't make buildings.
I had faith that Nick was going to join.
that is misplaced.
Exactly.
But yeah, I guess I can agree with that. I guess my only problem, well, yeah, I don't really have a problem with that. So it's like trust in an authority. But I guess the only thing for me is that when you say like that you can't prove yourself or that you can't figure out yourself, like, do you mean like, so for example, if I had faith in a scientist because they made a discovery, is that to say that like I had faith in them because I couldn't use the same methods that they use to like make their own discovery, or would you say?
I guess couldn't is maybe a strong word. I think that maybe even just haven't or couldn't could
Okay.
both work.
Okay.
Because like for instance, the example I think we talked a little bit about, but the example that the guy even used in the podcast that you listened to that I recommended.
Yeah, I got halfway through that.
Well, I don't know if it was there. Yeah, and so the disclaimer: those guys are Catholic, and I don't totally agree with everything they say, but I would largely agree with almost everything that they said in the podcast.
Yeah.
And we can talk a little bit more about like different sects of Christianity, as you might call them, or different denominations.
Dude, what the fuck is the thumbnail, dude?
What?
For the stream.
Oh, it didn't say it, so it's just random.
Wait, why does it say waiting? What the fuck?
Well, it's my internet's shit. I'm sorry. Carry on, Chris.
Yo, this shit ain't even live.
It's not
What?
live?
Like,
Oh wait, what
person-
the fuck? Bro, there's like 2 streams. One's waiting and the other's live.
Oh, great.
It doesn't even matter at this point. It's
Your
recording.
sugar match sucks.
All that it matters is that it's recording. What were you saying, Chris?
if there's a blind person,
Yeah.
they cannot prove what something looks like for themselves. Someone could say that it's bright outside right now. Now,
Yeah.
they may not totally understand what that means. They could have had it described to them throughout their life, and they can have faith in what it is that the people are telling them.
Oh,
Wait,
okay.
hold on.
Yeah.
If they trust that the other people have eyes and are not lying to them, they
Right.
trust in their authority.
Wait,
Tell
this is
them
important.
what it looks like outside right now.
All right, I'm on
This
the
is
same page.
important. Wait.
What?
Well, you gotta remove the text on the screen.
Oh shit! Thank you.
All
Yeah,
right.
I put text saying.
Continue.
All right, my bad. Thanks, Isaiah. So I think that's a good example because that is an example of where like you could not like discern what someone else is, or you couldn't verify what someone else is saying because you yourself would need a sense that you don't have. And I guess what I would probably say to that is like that I feel like the best way to do that instead of just having faith would be to okay, here's what I would do. So instead of having faith, if I was blind and someone who could see told me that there was an object in front of me, I could verify that there was an object in front of me by feeling it or I don't know, like smelling it if it has a smell or using any of my other senses. But if there was something that I couldn't use my other senses for, like anything that is just purely light, for example, which I guess could be, I don't know, if they said like there's, a sun in the sky or just like this ball of light. Well, I don't know, because I guess what I'm saying is like, if I could verify it through the senses that I do have, then I would have faith in them per se. But if I couldn't, then I would say that I wouldn't say that I don't have faith in them, but I would just say that I don't believe them because there's no way that I can verify what they're describing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So
But you can kind of blow up the example almost, or expand the example to if there's something that matters that you cannot see yourself. Like, for instance, if they told you that you need to duck because something is coming at you, or something, then you will need to have that trust in what they're saying, to believe them, that you should then indeed duck because something is coming your way, even if you cannot verify that yourself. If like a tennis ball is coming down, someone hit it and it went over the fence or whatever.
right. Yeah, and I would agree. I think there are some circumstances like, okay, so when there's faith in that sense, to me is more like based on previously existing trust. So it's not just like having like faith. Like if I've known Josh for a really long time. If he told me that, okay, actually maybe not, because Josh would probably troll me.
What are you talking about? No, I wouldn't.
Okay. If Josh told me that there was like an arrow, assuming that he had like precognition superpowers, that I was like I should duck in the next 5 seconds, I would believe him, because of pre-existing trust that I have for him. But if it was just like some random stranger, then I wouldn't have any evidence. I think that's the right word. Evidence, kind of to build into that faith that I would put into their word. So I feel like it's not just. I think there's a difference between like blind faith and faith that you have where there's reasoning behind it. And blind faith is just like, well, just trust in it because if you do, then there's nothing bad that'll happen. But if you don't, there is a possibility that something bad will happen. And I think, to me, I don't really accept the usage of blind faith, and I would accept the usage of reasoning for faith, but my only problem with that is if you have a reason to believe something, then I would just I wouldn't use faith because I would just use my reasoning for, whatever I was going to have faith in. Like, I would just use my reasoning for, I would say, I've known Josh for a really long time. I know that he wouldn't want me to, get hurt or get injured. So I would use that as kind of evidence to, putting trust in his word. But, I don't know if I would use the word, faith. Do you know what I mean? I would just use my reason.
Chris?
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Oh.
So my point is basically, I guess, what is the use of the word faith, and how is it different between either blind faith or just using reasoning to determine or to justify a belief?
I think it gets again at just what is reason then. Reason
Right.
would be being able to prove that something is always going to be true using what it is that is available to you. Then what I really liked last week was you were talking about how we can't really know anything for sure. All we can do is use the evidence that's kind of pointed to a certain conclusion.
Right.
And then guess that, and sometimes guess with very, very good chances that we're right, what will happen next based on what has already happened.
Yeah, and there's another thing that I forgot to mention last week. I don't mean to cut you off if you were still going to elaborate. Hello?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I didn't mention that, we were talking about justification for believing something, and justification for being right about something, but there's also, I believe, justification for being wrong about something, because it would be hypocritical to say that using your reasoning will always lead you to truth, and then to kind of preach your own reasoning as means to what is absolutely true. But it's also Josh literally just ripped the wettest, loudest fart I've ever heard in my life.
I'm sorry.
Wow. That's insane.
Have you been treating him over there, Will?
I actually forgot what I was saying.
True.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. Anyway.
Facts.
Okay, so justification of being wrong. So there should be circumstances where you're objectively wrong about something, but you should still...
True.
Okay, Isaiah.
Jesus Christ, 2 Chainz, shut the hell up.
There should be situations where you're still justified in being wrong about something. Like, for example, if you were if you had all of a new discovery, for example, you can't be, if scientists are wrong about explaining a phenomenon, it shouldn't be one that hasn't been discovered yet, and they've tried all these things with the evidence that they've already gathered and all the data they've already gathered and all the tools they already have to try and find something that can only be discovered with a tool or a method that doesn't exist yet. I would say that they would be justified in being wrong, because they've given it their best, and there's nothing more that they could do. And I guess what I'm saying is even if you're wrong about something, if you're still using logic and reason to what's the word? Induct what you're trying to prove, I would still say that would be the right method of doing so. So, the atheist perspective, I would say, is basically someone who can't prove that there's a God, but also admits that they can't disprove that there's a God, and therefore, instead of saying that because they can't prove a God that one might exist, or because they can't disprove a God that one might not exist, they're basically saying that they just don't have the tools or the data to lead them to that conclusion. And even if they're wrong, so in like not believing because they don't have the tools, so if they're wrong in not believing, I would still consider that being a situation where they're justified in being wrong because they've essentially exhausted everything that they could do to determine the truth. Does that make sense?
Interesting. I don't have a pen. Let me go grab a pen. I'm gonna write that down.
Okay. Whoa. Yeah, this stream is definitely frozen.
Oh no. Can we just record and post the videos then?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's still recording, so I mean, it'll just go up after we're
that's
done.
true.
Yeah.
You're right.
But yeah, I think it again gets back to what I was talking about last time, which is, and I don't want to go too off track here. So the topic is like, reasons to believe, and I think we're narrowing into that. But and yeah, this is I think this is a good segue topic because this is kind of getting into what I was saying before about how like, if God wants us to believe that He exists, then I feel like it should be objective and clear to everyone. At least, if not born knowing that he exists, at least give us the proper tools that anybody could use to conclude that he exists. And
he wants you to take a journey yourself. Just like the whole purpose.
Yeah, and I would agree.
Struggle comes with the journey.
Right, but I would see it as kind of pointless if it would be kind of predetermined that your journey would fail, meaning that you ultimately don't believe because you're just not convinced by the evidence.
Well, like everything in life, some people just aren't cut for it. Some people just aren't destined for it.
Right, so it's like a question of, is God essentially saying that some people just aren't cut and don't have the chance at all to...
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I guess that's the question.
I would not say that God would just say some people
apparent.
aren't cut for it.
No, I think it's pretty apparent.
So what would you say, Chris?
I would say that let's look at the reasons for God that I've kind of been thinking of.
Okay.
And let's judge for ourselves, because I would say that I think that God has given everyone the faculties that they need to know Him. So I believe God calls all people to know Him. What'd you say, Isaiah?
I said I beg to differ. Because there's just some people that will inherently never hear this message because of where they are. And like, obviously, you have opportunity in life to do anything. I mean, you can go anywhere, you can see anything, you can do anything. But it's like the chances and the probability of them like venturing outside of their worldview is very limited. It's very skewed. Which is why people that are born in other countries where like the major religion is like a different thing, like 9 times out of 10, they're going to believe that because that's what they were brought up on. And it's not anything wrong with them. It's just what they know. It's what they're comfortable with. It's what they've grown up with. And for them to jump over to like some Western or like other religion that's just not theirs, it's not likely. They don't live the lifestyle. It doesn't fit with how they live.
Yeah,
it's crazy to try to convert somebody over because it's like a completely drastic change in their worldview.
I think I would agree with that.
In most circumstances, they will never have the mindset to switch over because just how you see other religions as ridiculous, because that's not the one you follow. They see the same thing. It's literally a parallel.
Yeah, I think that's.
And then most cases they have like as strong. I mean, I'm talking, Josh. It's okay. And in some cases they have stronger conviction. Like they just have as strong of a conviction as you do. So.
Yeah.
What makes you right over them?
Yeah, and I would say that makes you right over them. Okay, well, what makes them right over me?
I mean,
well, okay. If I can interject, I'm sorry. I need to interject because there's something very important going on here, and I don't mean to be like big scholar, big brain, high IQ, because I'm not. But I think that's called an argument from ignorance, where it's like, if you're saying that, yeah, that is the case against me, but yeah, that's the case against me, but it's also the case against you. So it's kind of like saying,
well, it's not the case against me.
Well, because Chris is right. What he's saying is that, why are they wrong against my view? I'm sorry. He's saying
I think you misunderstand, because all I was saying was from their perspective. All right, go ahead.
So what he's saying is, why am I wrong? Why is he wrong against them, and why isn't it that they're wrong against him? And I'm just saying that that's one of those situations where it's not really a question that can be answered constructively, because that could be used for any kind of argument. So it's more of like, you have to whoever's making the claim has the burden of proof. So if you're making a claim for something, then the proof would be, or the burden of proof would be on you to convince someone else of that claim through evidence that they could, determine for themselves.
I think you're confused, because all I was saying with that example, because I wasn't saying that they're right or that Chris is wrong or whatever. All I was saying, the only reason I brought up that example is because that's what they believe. They believe it strongly. Like, they believe in that as strongly as, like, Chris believes in what he believes.
No, I agree with you.
They were brought up with that.
Yeah, no, I was responding.
I'm saying, like, it's impossible for them to see from Chris's perspective, just like it's impossible for him to see from their perspective.
Yeah,
it's literally two parallels.
I was responding.
And I'm not saying either side's right, though.
Yeah, I understand. I was responding to what Chris said.
Ah.
Yeah. So we can give Chris a chance to respond.
My bad. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Thanks for that. And I mean, I will say that is the burden of a lot of missionaries, is they go to places and they don't just say, listen to this, I'm right, you're wrong, your view's out the window, listen to me instead, I'm right.
Yeah.
They'll enter into a... Yeah.
I was going to say, the problem with that is in some cases they'll listen, but the only thing I'm saying is that won't always happen. Like, there is not, like, for some people, they're just so myopic. Like, they're just so stuck in their worldviews that it's impossible for them to see from other perspectives. Like, for some people, it is literally impossible for them to see outside of, like, their thinking. There's just some people that will never see from your perspective. So it's impossible to convert everybody. It's just literally impossible. Not everybody is going to be chosen for that belief, even if you wanted them to. And I'm sure if they were in, like, I'm sure if they knew, they will want to, but some people will never delve into it enough to where it'll become their lifestyle.
Right.
If you get what I'm saying.
Perhaps that's true.
So in a way, he's literally making a situation where to some people will literally not be saved because of ignorance.
Which
I would say that's, I mean, to be ignorant and refuse to listen to someone else proposing an idea to you is not God's fault, but that's your fault for not wanting to learn and not listening to someone else's ideas.
Yeah, I
kind of agree, but at the same time, it's like the reason they're ignorant is because it's like I'm sure if like you gave them a valid point, like a good majority will like switch over, but I don't think you would tell them anything that would convince a majority of them, because just like your beliefs, it's similar to what they believe in.
Yeah.
So as far as what you say, it just sounds irrational to them. It doesn't make sense.
So
it's not like to something like science to where like you can test it and then they just have to, like, there's no way to refute the claims. But like the stuff you're claiming to these people, there's no way for you to prove it. It's just faith you have. It's just a belief. It's just a feeling.
Now I think both of you are right in that Isaiah is saying that some people are just they're not going to accept any other idea, and Chris saying that, well, that is basically their free will choice. which I completely agree with, but I think what I would say is, if they had the free will to question their own religion, and that applies to them, would that not apply also to Christianity? To question other religions or no religion at all?
Well, yeah, it's a parallel, so it goes from both.
And if so, then how do you determine which one is true?
You can't. And it's like, the way I look at it, you just have to, you just got to get lucky, basically, because there's no way to know for sure. There's no definitive answer.
Why don't we take this as a segue into, so let's talk about the reasons for God and the reasons for Christianity.
Okay.
I can think of very little.
I can think of a few. I would say that the reasons for God, and by the way, when I say reason for God, I guess I really mean reason for believing in God, because as far as I know, I can't tell the difference between a universe that exists with God or without a God, so I can't really assert that I have any empirical reasons to believe that he exists. Like, if I look at a tree and I can't say that God made that, or if it didn't just occur through natural causes. So I'm going to assume that it's like reasons for believing in God. And I would say in that case that there's good arguments that I'm on the fence about, but they're good questions, which is there's the design question. So you look around and you see things that appear to be designed in the same way that people design things, not in the exact same way, but in terms of there's this kind of chaotic mess, and yet it's ordered, and things come together, and the fact that life was formed, at least, well, okay, there's a few presuppositions here that we have to agree on. Chris, do you believe in evolution?
Hell no.
Yes, I do.
Okay. I'm just clarifying. I'm not, I'm just making sure that.
Because I thought Chris said that.
And so if life came together through, we'll call it natural means, but for this situation, it could be with or without God. I would say that it's logical to assume that, or it's reasonable to assume that a God exists, or a designer exists, that kind of made everything be in a way that it couldn't otherwise be, that it literally would be impossible to otherwise be. It's like if you spilled a bag of marbles on the floor, and you just kind of left them there. They're not just going to magically become ordered. There needs to be some kind of way that they, become ordered and behave in a kind of intelligent way.
Well, I got two things to say real quick.
Okay.
I don't know if this applies, but I'm gonna just throw it out while I got a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Humans naturally want to see meaning in things. I think that's pretty apparent. And the other thing I was gonna say was the reason why everyone sees things like perfectly is because of repetition. It's stuff they see all the time. But that's just the perspective they have as like the human. Like, our lifespans are short in the grand scheme of things. Like, people think everything's orderly because like they live day to day, like basic lives, the same routine. But like in the grand scheme of things, everything's like chaotic. Things explode.
Right.
Like, everything is like moving fast.
And I would say again, that's probably more of so like you're right. People want to give meaning to things even if they don't have meaning. And so it's
exactly,
like,
and that's what I'm saying.
Right, and so it's like, does that apply to God as well? And I would say, you could argue either or, because you could say that the reason why we give things meaning is because there is a meaning and that God wants to give us meaning. Or you can also say that the reason that we have meaning is because it's just a natural survival tool that we have to not fall into some kind of depression and just say, oh, well, what's the point? And so just do whatever we want. So it's almost, you can say that it is kind of a moral standard that some intelligent being put in place, or that we've kind of adapted in a way to where we've become our own moral judges and we've put these rules in place for ourselves. because that's the best way for us to survive, is by giving things meaning.
It's definitely a survival thing.
And I think, and again, it could be maybe both, but I don't know if there. I don't think there's evidence that leans in. It's just an interesting point. It's an interesting observation, I would say. I don't know if
Nothing
there's any.
intrinsically has value, though. We give it value.
I would be inclined to agree with that, because
everything is finite.
Yeah.
And in the grand scheme of things, everything's going to reset and everything's going to be gone.
Well, as far as, yeah, I'd say that's part of another, but yeah, I see where you're coming from.
But basically, the reason things have meaning is because of how we feel.
Yeah, I would say that's, well, the thing is that some things have meaning regardless of how we feel, such as, like, medicine, for example. You know, we might not want to take medicine, a kid might not want to take medicine, but it still has.
Yeah.
That's true, there could be a difference between meaning and purpose. I don't know if there's, yeah, that's a good point.
Well, everything has a meaning, because everything means something, but I mean, like, we give it meaning, like, we give definitions, we create definitions, we create language, so we give everything a meaning.
Right, like, everything has
literally.
a function. Everything has a function, but, like, what has meaning, which is, like, why. It's like the why does it function, rather than
like,
the does it function.
The reason people celebrate Valentine's Day is because it gives people meaning. It gives them, like, a satisfaction.
Right. Chris, do you want to jump in here?
But the day actually doesn't matter. It's just a regular day.
Yeah.
People go out and spend money because they give it meaning. They give it importance.
Yeah, I agree.
Something truly matters.
Abstract things definitely have meaning.
I guess.
You just made an argument for why nothing has meaning, and we just give things arbitrarily meaning, and then how things do actually have real, true, eternal meaning, or maybe not eternal, but real, true meanings that are true.
I mean, nothing has meaning. We just give it meaning. So.
Well, we kind of got a little. So I guess what we're saying basically is that abstract things definitely have meaning, and by abstract I mean ideas that people have, like such as Valentine's Day. It's not something that you hold in your hand. But it's like something that, you know, that people celebrate and
mean something to you.
Right, you can assign meaning to objects, but it's not that now the object has objectively a meaning. It just has a meaning to you. So meaning in of itself is kind of a tool that people can use to I guess a tool people can use to be happier, first of all, because if they assign meaning to something, then that in a way is almost saying that they have meaning, because if they're attached to something that is meaningful, then they themselves feel like they're for a greater cause. So
meaning is literally the only reason things keep going. Without meaning, things wouldn't function. You know? Like, we'd probably be gone if it wasn't for meaning. So.
Right, and so, but the thing is that if things objectively have a meaning, yet people are willing to assign meaning to things at their own will, then first of all, can someone assigning meaning overwrite existing meaning, meaning that if something
everything
has an objective
purpose,
meaning...
But not everything has a meaning.
Yeah, well, I would say everything has a function.
Well, let's define those two terms before we just start throwing them around.
Yeah.
We're going to use different terms.
I would say purpose and meaning are kind of the same, that you could use them interchangeably. I think that's fair because, I mean, their definitions in of themselves are pretty similar. But I would say function would be a better word for things that, like, for example, an atom has function. It comes together with other atoms, makes elements, elements make objects that we use and interact with. They have a function. Does it have a meaning? You know, if, you know, the dirt outside of my house, it has a function that it can become soil to harbor, you know, a living environment for plants. Does it have any ultimate meaning? Not really, because it's just going to grow there, die, and it's not going to be useful, at least not to people. And so you could extend that.
Actually, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and you can kind of...
Meaning means explanation, so yeah, everything has an explanation.
Right, and so I guess...
Eventually.
But the thing is that that's a very closed-off case. So that specific weed outside of my house will not have any meaning or significance to our lives. But in the grand scheme of things, it, you know, the process of that has meaning, because that's what, I mean, that's part of the origin of life, or the fact that it's alive to begin with is very significant to us. And so, you know, it's kind of like saying that if a cow outside my house dies, that, you know, it didn't really have much meaning. But if every cow on Earth died, that'd be a very significant impact. So I guess you could say that everything has a function, and because everything has a function, everything has meaning. And I would be very clear in making the distinction between the two words. I'm not saying that function and meaning are the same. I'm just saying that because they have a function, meaning because they are useful, because they do things that we can interact with and that involve our lives, that it becomes meaningful because we assign meanings to things.
Alright, I'll just agree that everything has meaning, definitionally wise, but you can override it.
I would go even farther, as to say that everything does have a meaning or a reason for being there, or a purpose, as we're using the terms interchangeably.
Yeah.
Because to go even past ourselves, because that weed that grows and dies, that decomposes and provides nutrients for the next thing that grows.
Right. Right.
And now that doesn't mean that everything is just an equal playing field. I don't think that's necessarily what that entails. But it does not mean that the weed is meaningless, because things still need to grow there. Yeah, service purpose. There we
so
go.
there's actually
So
there's two contexts that we can define meaning in. There's a context where it's a closed environment where, like, you know, that one specific weed is not going to affect anything else on the planet except, you know, that 1 square meter of area that it takes up. But in general, the fact that process itself has an overall meaning, and so that applies to all of us, regardless of wherever it happens locally. So I guess I would say that, you know, meaning would be, it depends what you're talking about. So do people have local meaning or like a grand meaning? You know, because there's
we
people
all have a grand meaning.
Well, it depends how you define meaning again, I guess, because at least, I don't know, at least while you're alive, because there's people who live, do nothing, do nothing, die.
They all affect the universe.
I'm sorry, what?
But they all affect the universe.
That's true, but it's
so they
more
all have a grand meaning.
Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean? How so?
Everybody literally affects the universe, in a way. Everybody is like a part of the puzzle, like a piece of the puzzle.
Are you saying it's like a chain reaction, like the butterfly effect?
Yeah.
So
but
like,
then the weed would have eternal meaning and would not be a local meaning.
Yeah, because that would mean that just because the plant outside my house died, maybe that triggers, like, I don't know, someone to save someone from building.
Beans.
I'm not saying it's got to be like immediate, but everything affects each other.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't know.
It just is what it is.
It's the butterfly effect is pretty interesting because I don't know to what extent, what scale it goes to. Like, I don't know.
I'm not going to break down the scale, but I'm just saying, like, everything affects each other, so everything has a grand purpose.
I think it has a tree-like structure, so some things have larger butterfly effects than others, but eventually I think that effect stops, or at very least it becomes too narrow to the point where it means anything significant. Like, if you drop a coin on the floor, that is going to move air molecules around, and they're going to bump into each other, and that process is going to stop once you get, like, a couple feet away from it. So, oh my god, my throat is so dry right now.
Well, that's a bad example, because somebody's going to pick it up eventually, which is going to delay them, which is going to change destiny and fate and everything, and then, yeah.
You know what?
It's going to literally change your destiny and path.
I actually would agree with you there, because
Boom.
the fact that there's limited matter in the universe, because, you know, assuming that we all agree on the rule that matter can't be destroyed or created,
I can make an argument
at least
for it, but sure.
not within the reality that we observe, then
make an argument,
whatever changes in that finite quantity of matter would definitely there would be a displacement in the universe, and so that would cause you know, the state of the universe to be different. But again,
God could create matter with creative mode.
Jesus.
Okay.
With dev mode.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, again, this is kind of the difference between, like, functional meaning and, which, by the way, is just a term I made up. I'm not I'm just defining functional meaning as
They
like
gonna roast your ass. They're like, what the
it
fuck
has
you
a
talking
function.
about?
But I guess meaning as in, you know what? I would ask Chris. My question to you would be like, what would you define as something that does not have functional meaning? Like, because to me, functional meaning, or just something having a function, is the only kind of meaning that I can really grasp. Like, a displacement in the universe between things moving around. But like, I can't really grasp another type of meaning, if you know what I mean.
There's no other type of meaning.
That's really interesting. And thinking right now, I don't think that I would have a different kind of meaning, because I think that kind of what we said so far is really good. That things do have function.
Well, actually, you can change
Right.
the meaning. So yeah, I guess that'd be a different type of meaning.
Things do have a reason for being there, if we want to say that, and I would say that.
Mhm.
Well, I can say this.
Well, hold on. I would
Yeah.
say that because I think that what we've said makes sense, and I think that what we've said is true. And even in the Bible, God creates things and He gives them meaning, aka purpose, aka function. If we have been using those functions interchangeably, and I think that we can in the context of this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Those things that things have a reason for existing. And I would say if we can go back, which is what I was going to take us to next, is different arguments from just going backwards in time thinking, which we can talk more about that now if we want to.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say one last.
Those
thing.
purposes have been given functions which play out through time, and all these functions come together in God's great creation.
Okay.
Isaiah, you said that you had a response.
Yeah, what were you gonna say, Isaiah?
All I was gonna say was things intrinsically have meaning, like an explanation, a definition, but you can always change a definition or an explanation. So there's intrinsic meaning, and then there's
Yeah, what do you mean?
like everything intrinsically means something, like, but you can change like what it means, like.
So like
to you.
if this pencil on my desk right now, you're saying that like
No, what I'm
it
saying-
could be a meaning.
What it means to you.
Right. So what you're saying, yeah, I'm addressing what you're talking about. Like it can change meaning. Like I can either use it to write with, which would be a meaning that I'm giving it, or I could use it to stab someone and kill someone with, which would be a different meaning. So
Yeah.
you're saying, yeah, okay. I'm just making sure you're on the right page. Or I'm making sure I'm on the right page. Sorry. Yeah.
But I
So
also mean like it can mean something to you, like physically. It can be more than just what it is. Like how you feel about it.
yeah, and I guess the question would be, does that also apply to people?
It can mean different things depending on how you
So,
look at them. But
would you say that?
like they were just a person.
Would you say that an individual could, by themselves, in a way, change their own meaning of life, or define their own meaning of life based on that definition that you gave?
Yes.
Okay. And so if they can change their own meaning with their own free will, does that mean that, again, I see only two situations here. Either there is pre-existing meaning given by God, and by someone's own free will they overwrite that meaning because they have the free will to do so, or does it mean that there is no pre-existing
there's
meaning?
meaning. There's intrinsic meaning, which is like the truth. But
Well,
you can also give it your meaning.
yeah.
You can
Well,
give it your
what
own
I'm
meaning.
saying is, if there's intrinsic meaning, but it's going to be overwritten anyway, then that's basically the same as just assuming under this model that we're talking about that there is no pre-existing meaning, because if nothing is ever going to go as
No, 'cause
defined.
Because a meaning's like a definition. There's stuff that like for sure like fits the qualifications to be what it is. Like there's things that are just for sure true, but like you can give something meaning even if it's true because of how you feel.
Okay.
So I'm saying you can feel a certain way about something and give it that meaning, but that doesn't make you right. It's just how you feel.
I would agree with that. Well, yeah, I think I would agree with that.
That's what I'm saying. There's different levels of meaning. Like there's stuff that's just like inherently true that you can discover yourself. That logically makes sense. Like there's stuff that's just 100% true.
Right. Like you could
And then
say.
there's stuff like there's stuff that you
But
create and give it meaning.
the thing is, though, is how could you be right or wrong about a meaning? Like, if I said that this... Okay, if you have two people and one person says that pencil was made for writing and another person says that pencil was made for killing, how do you determine which one is right and whose meaning is right? Because they both...
If a meaning conflicts against what is, like...
Right.
Like,
but what if they don't conflict?
like, I'm saying, like, if your meaning is, like, pencils... Like, I don't know. I don't even know how you would explain it, because, like...
Right.
If your meaning for it was, like, it doesn't do what it does, then I don't see how that could be...
Right. So if someone couldn't take a pencil and say that the meaning of this pencil is to make me fly, because that the pencil can't do that. So you could say that, yeah, I see what you're saying. So that would be an incorrect assignment of meaning to that pencil, because that literally is something that it can't do. But
when it comes to yourself, you can give anything meaning to yourself.
Yeah, I
still
agree
think
with that.
meaning falls within the laws of, like, reality. Like, there's just some things that, like, won't mean, like, a certain way. Like, everything has a meaning, but there's some things that just won't mean a certain thing.
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I think that just makes sense. Like, everything has a meaning, but not every meaning will be given to a certain thing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think I have anything else to add to that. I think that's pretty sound. So now we have to try.
It's just so hard to explain because there's so many levels to it.
Yeah, meaning is a hard thing to explain. It's a very difficult topic to talk about.
But I think that pretty much adds up.
But yeah, so I guess the point of all that would be applying that to our situation, which is about God and people.
But yeah, I can bring that back. I can flip it. I can bring it back.
Okay.
Chris, that can mean something to you, but that doesn't mean that it has a grand meaning.
But we were just talking earlier about how things do have grand meanings.
No, but I'm saying, like, it may not be true, so it may not mean what you think it means. That's just how you feel, which in a way is a meaning. But I'm saying it may not be accurate. I'm saying there's intrinsic, like, meanings, like stuff that's true.
So yeah.
So we can't know any of it?
I'm saying you can't quantifiably, logically assert the claim. You can only feel the way you do, which in a way is a meaning, but it's not an intrinsic meaning.
And so we can't know any of the intrinsic meanings, is what you're saying?
No, you can, through experimentation and observation.
Well, again, what do we mean by meaning? Do we mean, like, its function? Because if we mean its function, then yeah, we can determine that through testing and observation. But meaning... Here's the thing. Okay, here's where I think things are getting confusing. When we're talking about meaning, there's two types. And again, I was talking about functional meaning, which is just like, what is the point?
Is literally like stuff you can explain logically, like stuff that definitionally, like, it is what it is. You can't.
Right, but there's also there's the meaning where it's just like it's more spiritual, where it's like, what is my purpose? And it's not just that, oh, your purpose is to live 50 years and then be buried 6 feet underground, because you could technically say that that's your functional meaning. But I guess what, the real discussion is about is more of another kind of meaning, to where, oh, my meaning is to, accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior so that I can live an eternal life in heaven with God. But then again, to me, and the reason I was asking this to you, Chris, is because to me, that still kind of falls under the definition of functional meaning. Like, I can't, and this could just be me, of course, it could just be that I can't perceive another kind of meaning, but, I can't grasp, because to me that would be something like non-physical or non-natural. Because if it could be explained through natural means, then it could just be that, again, I don't claim to know any of this. So what I'm saying is, as far as I understand, I only have this definition of meaning that's functional. So it's like, okay, once we get to heaven and we live an eternal life, like, then what? Like, I feel like you can always ask the then what question. Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually, I would disagree with the function that you have given to people, and I'll tell you what I believe it is in a second. But that's why I really like this functional meaning, or kind of being things as definition, is that the reason why something is there is this meaning. And I believe that things do have a fixed function. And as far as people, and as far as going to heaven when you die and things like that, I believe that. So you ask, then what? Well, I think that we've talked some about God's creation and when God created, that God gave things functions. Mm-hmm. He gave humans a function in that creation as well. He gave humans the function of taking care of his creation. And we also, here later and looking back, it makes perfect sense why this is, but it just tells us that the greatest commandments, the greatest things that God has told us to do, that everything else flows from these things, is God tells us that we are to love God and love our neighbor, or love our fellow human, love other people. And that all function, all of what we do, goes out of those things, of that function that God has given us, of taking care of creation, of existing in this balance, everything that exists.
Okay.
Loving God and loving neighbor. And so to your question, maybe it wasn't even a question of, but then after we go to heaven and we die, being transported up to heaven and sitting there and just existing forever, I don't think that's what's going to happen. The Bible talks of new creation and of things being brought back as in time reversed, but as God bringing back. It is that his good creative intention was showing us that he is the God who redeems. We've talked a little bit about this before. And that the purpose of humanity, to live in this creation, in this balance, to love God and love people, is the purpose that God has given to us, to live in that balance, in harmony. I think harmony would even be a good word to use here.
Right.
That kind of creative order. And to against that function, you could go ahead and say a person's function is to live 50 years, die, and then they're weed fodder for the next weeds that grow, and then they decompose and blah, blah, blah.
In a way.
You could say that. You have the prerogative to say that. I would say that doesn't actually give the new meaning to that thing. It's just something that sounds like meaning to that thing, but isn't actually meaning to the thing.
Logically,
right.
It's meaning because that's like what its purpose was in a grand scheme.
Well, yeah, and just to be clear, I'm not saying that like definitively that's what someone's meaning is in life, is to just live 50 years and then die. I'm just saying, using that as an example as meanings. What?
Yeah, I know you're not saying that, but someone could say that is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and
well,
so
they have a prerogative to say that.
Yeah, and I
agree.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they would be wrong, but I think there's also
logically they would. Well, they would be half right.
It would be a subset of meaning. It's like, yes, that is part of it, but there's also this and there's also this, and you can climb up the hierarchy of what also falls under your meaning. So I think that's kind of what Chris was saying. Is like, yeah, you could say that, but that's not the full story.
Yeah, sometimes it could be the full story because that's what the person thinks about himself, I guess.
It could be the full story depending on what your example is. But I think, again, so the then what that Chris was addressing about, what I'm getting from this is that there's more of like, meaning is something that you strive for. And so it's something like, there's a goal, like he was talking about the 10 Commandments. Like those are kind of your guidelines to strive for the meaning that's been God given to you. And so if you're gonna say that, then there has to be this presupposition that the meaning in life has been set at the beginning of time by God, that he wants to share his love with humanity, or with humanity and with himself, or however that, whatever analogy or explanation you kind of want to use, that's like the meaning. And so like I think, Chris, again, correct me if I'm wrong, is that what you're saying is because that was God's intention, or that was his goal, that's now kind of become our inherent meaning or goal, is to do those things that he told us to do in the name of what he did all this for in the first place. Does that make sense? And by did all this for in the first place, I mean like, creation and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I would just say there's much more of a direct connection than an indirect connection between those things. We didn't just find ourselves in this creation and we're like, I guess that God wants us to do something. There is a direct giving of purpose to humanity.
Okay.
Even in the dialogue in the first book of the Bible, there is a direct giving of purpose to humanity.
Okay. That's
it's all
good.
of creation.
So I have then that makes me think of another question again, which kind of I think goes back to the first question I asked more or less. That if there is that like given meaning, that kind of direct meaning where it's not just kind of inherited, but it's more just there's a very specific meaning for each person, then could it be that some people, first of all, do you think it's possible that a person, an individual, can genuinely not know what their meaning in life is?
Yeah.
This is an interesting and a complicated question, even in Christian dialogues. Because I would say that God has given us this overall picture of, Jesus told us, like I said, that the greatest commandments are love God and love your neighbor. All other commandments flow from these. And that's not a direct quote, but that's pretty much what is being said. There might be a few different prepositions or whatever is what I mean. But, and that is, I believe, our purpose, to live in this creation, to do those things, and to strive for the coming of God's kingdom, that new creation I was talking about. And when that arrives, it won't be so much of a, okay, what now? We did what we came here to do. What's our new purpose, God? But we will live in that harmony, loving God and loving our neighbors.
Well, two things.
Right.
Yeah.
One, I don't think you could say that for everybody, because that's not everybody's purpose, obviously, because some people don't believe that. But it could be your purpose.
Well, I guess so. That was kind of what I was gonna say, Isaiah. So.
And then another thing.
Okay.
Just because you believe in it, it's still a purpose, but it doesn't make it right. It's just how you feel. There's no way to intrinsically prove it.
So you're saying that they could basically overwrite their God-given purpose with free will of just rejecting what is objectively true about their meaning and just replacing it with what they feel like their meaning is.
Yeah.
Okay. So Chris, what would you have to? How would you comment on that?
Well, earlier we were talking a little bit about as far as individual meaning, idea that you kind of brought up is it is a very general and very big guideline.
Yeah.
And different people express that in different ways. I know people who are artists express their love for God through art, and they make beautiful art. That's a way of they serve people through doing those things as well, by making this beautiful art for people. And so kind of the ultimate purpose is to love God and love neighbor, but there's smaller purposes that play into that and lead into that big purpose, which God has gifted individual people for, and God's given people individual places to do those things. And I believe, like I said earlier, that I believe that people have the prerogative people have the ability to reject that and say, no, loving God and loving neighbor, no, that's not a thing. I am here to, I don't know, I can't think of something right now that would be something else.
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying, for the most part.
But, I don't know, I feel like I'm not getting quite at the question that you were asking, Isaiah. Help me out here.
Well, okay, yeah. Isaiah.
Wait, what?
Do you want me to kind of, because I think I know what, so the original thing was the original question, which I kind of phrased, was, can people overwrite their given objectively true meaning with their own free will? Can they give themselves a meaning that was not previously assigned to them by God? I think was the question.
Well, I don't think you can assign them to me.
And
I think
and Chris, you were talking about how there's small meaning where there's, or for lack of a better word, small meaning, which is your kind of your local effect where you can be an artist or be an engineer, and like that's kind of like your local meaning, but then there's still, it's a part of like a grander meaning, which is about what God has already, or what the Bible basically explains.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd say that's accurate of like what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I would say that's totally accurate of what I was going
Okay.
to say. But the small meanings and the big meanings.
Right. So
Big meaning.
yeah. So I guess naturally my question to that would be like, what if someone creates, so like what would the relationship between a local meaning and the grand meaning be, and what if they contradict each other? For an example, what if someone defines their local meaning as being something that's against the meaning that God gave them? Again, this kind of like a morals question.
Okay, yeah, I'm thinking right
It's
now.
still a meaning though, because that's how they feel about themselves. That's their meaning for themselves.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about the relationship between like your own meaning and a grander meaning, and how that.
Well, your grand meaning is what it is, but you can find a meaning within yourself. Like what you can decide within yourself, like why you're here.
Right.
But if it conflicts, then I mean, I guess it could in a way. Like if your grand meaning isn't like to be a terrible person, but you strive to be a terrible person, both can still work.
Well, I would say probably that they can't, because if there is this grand meaning that is contradicting what you're saying your meaning is, then there's definitely a problem here, because there's a straight, direct contradiction.
I'm talking about within them. I'm saying like, I don't know how to explain it in a way. Like, it means something to them what they're doing.
Right.
But in the grand scheme of things, that's what it's going to be.
So to solve this problem, there has to be a weight towards what meaning is more significant, because they can't be.
The grand meaning is more significant.
Right. Yeah. Right.
To them, but to them, it's like the other one's more.
But then the question arises, if that's the case, where the grand meaning is more significant, and it's just that's going to be deterministic of what happens to you in this case, then what even is the point of having that meaning for yourself? It's almost kind of like, in a way, discouraging to create meaning for yourself. I'm sorry, what?
Self-meaning only matters to you, though.
Right. So if there is this objective meaning, but okay, so here's the thing: if there is this,
I'll say this.
Yes.
Both forms of meaning have a function.
I would agree.
Meaning you have for yourself keeps you like going, and then like intrinsic meaning keeps you grounded. Like logic keeps you grounded within reality, but like personal meaning keeps you going. Like
right, but here's the thing: is that if you know that there is an objective meaning,
well, no one knows.
Well,
no one knows.
That's why I preface it with if. So if it is hypothetical, if you know that there is,
know your true meaning.
What?
I said I don't know how you can know your true. Like you could have an idea.
Well, again, that's why I'm saying if. So if you could, because what's happening here is the Bible is kind of assuming that it is the true meaning. So, or it's asserting that it is the true meaning. So, if you follow the Bible, then you can claim that you know your objective meaning. So if you know your objective meaning and your local meaning, what you personally want your meaning to be, objects to what is in the Bible, then are you at fault for having that? Or does this mean that you shouldn't give yourself meaning? Because giving yourself meaning can lead to that contradiction.
I don't know what to say to that because it does not compute.
Because if you're only yeah, go ahead, Chris.
This kind of gets at something that I was thinking about earlier, which is with this whole idea of like us assigning things meaning, which I don't believe that we can. And so there is that ultimate purpose that is given by the Bible, and so if I were to say that So my purpose in life is to go and kill a bunch of people for no apparent reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bad
And-
purpose, but it's still a purpose.
It is a bad purpose. It's still a purpose. It is. But I would say that it's not given by God, and I'm denying my real purpose, or something lesser, something that I want to do, something I want to give myself, rather than what God has given to me.
But Chris, I think
Okay.
you don't understand what I'm saying. The reason it doesn't compute is because it doesn't make sense. Like, there's no way for us to know, like, why we're truly here until the end. Because it's incomplete. There's no way for us to know. And even if somehow we did miraculously know, like, there's no way for us to there's no way for us to know. It's just like a speculation. So you could be right about your meaning and still not know for sure. It's like, I don't see how. It's like, you're saying, like, for 100% sure, like, your meaning's going to be this. Like, you're going to just will your meaning to be one thing. It may not, like, your journey may not end the way you thought it was going to end, is what I'm saying. Like, I'm sure for some people, like, their journey ended in a way that they did not expect. And their purpose was not what they would expect.
Right. Okay. So we were. Yeah.
And through agency and, like, having free will, you can change your destiny by literally making decisions. Everything, your path is literally constantly changing.
Yeah.
Like, there could be a grand path to where, like, a supreme being could know.
But okay. Yeah.
But, like, if you have free will, there's no way for him to control that.
So just to clarify,
He can just see how it ends.
Yeah, just to clarify, and Isaiah, I think it's perfectly valid what you're saying, but just to clarify, so we were kind of talking, like, on the assumption that, you know, if you accept every word in the Bible, that you can claim that you do know your true meaning. But what you're saying is also valid. You could question, because, you know, this is based on a presupposition that the Bible is true. So you could question. I think what you're more saying is, how can you know that the Bible is true? Is that more like what you're saying?
Well, yeah, but, like, all right, let's go from that perspective. If it's like we know for sure, then it's like, why give meaning to other stuff if you know, like, what your true purpose is? It's like, why even go against what truly just is if you just know?
Right, I would agree. If you know,
I just don't see how that's the case, because it's like no one knows.
Yeah, I would agree that if you know your true meaning, that there wouldn't be really a purpose in having local meaning. Well, I mean, so here's the thing. If your local meaning agrees with your grand meaning, then that's fine. But that would also mean that it's part of that grand meaning. Because if your local meaning disagrees, if your local meaning disagrees with the grand meaning, then that's not good. So
there would never be a separate category.
Right, yeah, there would never be a separate category. Because if your local meaning agrees with the grand meaning, then that's what is a part of the grand meaning. It's not like that's something else.
The reason we're even speculating about, like, the local meaning is because you have intrinsic meaning, like things that are for sure going to happen and true, and then you have, like, how you feel about yourself, like things you give meaning.
Yeah, listen, you guys can go on that. I have to, like, pee really badly, so I'll be right back. Just
okay.
But, like, I get what you're saying, Chris.
yeah, okay.
But it's like, thinking about it from my perspective is like, I just don't see how that could be possible. But I'm saying, like, you can give, like, meaning to a higher purpose. But I'm just saying, like, I don't see how that could be an intrinsic meaning, because, like, there's no way for you to know. And I don't see how you could know your own fate and destiny, like what your purpose is, because there's no way for us to know how everything's gonna end. I could literally, like, just off of a whim, make a song, it just goes viral. I become, like, a musician, and I become rich, and I just do a lot of things for the world, become an activist, just become a politician, just off of a whim, just off of, like, a random chance encounter. And I had no idea that was going to happen. Stuff like that happens because everything's random through chaos. Everything has a probability of happening. Through interaction, things are constantly changing. I don't see how somebody could see for sure how stuff's going to end.
I would say that things are not totally the result of chaos. because the result of chaos would be absolute chaos. There would cause and effect would not work if everything was a result of chaos.
Well, I mean, like, I'm saying everything's order, but like, what I'm saying by chaos is you don't know what'll happen. Like, no one goes through life predicting everything that's going to happen because that's just not how it works. You don't know for sure how things will end. Is that Josh? Is Josh back?
Huh?
Dude, okay.
It is Josh. But I what I'm saying, let me clarify myself. What I'm saying is that it's not that people can know the purposes, or I believe that people can know something of purposes that they have, the small purposes, as we were using that language earlier, their lives. But like I don't pretend to know how my life is going to end, or what's going to happen tomorrow, or what's going to happen a week from now, or what the grand impact, we could say, of my life is going to be. I do believe that that it does fit into a greater purpose, a bigger meaning. I'm trying to remember, we were using some language earlier, something like that. The greater purpose for my life does fit into God's purposes for my life, and that ultimately God's purposes will be worked out. He is God. Because this kind of gets back to this idea of faith that we've been talking about. I have faith, a trust in the authority of another, namely God, that what He has revealed to us in the Bible, I would say. And this gets kind of back to, well, who is God? Can we know Him? And so I think that maybe next we could talk a little bit more about the reasons for God's existence, and then from there we could even go into can we know God? Question. I believe we can, but I believe we can only truly know Him as He wants to be known through revelation. I think through God telling us Himself who He is. And that's a hard question in and of itself. And
right. Okay. Well, so
the reason why I say it's a hard question is because you can know the concept of what people believe He is. You can know Him through your own faith and what you believe and think.
But can I just interject real quick?
Truly know Him, because there's no way for us to.
Yeah, this is related to that. If I could just interject a question.
Yeah, sure.
So, Chris, when you said that the way that we could know God is by listening to His word, I feel like it could just be that I'm misinterpreting what you're saying, but I feel like it's almost kind of saying that the way that we can conclude that God exists is by presupposing that He does exist, in which case that would kind of be circular.
What I meant by saying knowing God is like in a much more personal level.
Right, but that would still assume that He already exists.
Yes, I was assuming that if we were to get past God exists or not, how would we know Him if God exists? Through Him revealing Himself to us.
Right.
So I said, I think maybe you were still gone, but we could talk some more about the reasons for the existence of God.
Okay. Yeah.
We never totally got into those, I don't think.
Right. Yeah. I don't think we did either. I think it was kind of segueing into that, but we just kind of get like these, subset
We
topics.
talked a lot about meaning, which I think has been really good, and I wrote down some questions to think about more this week about meaning.
Yeah.
That's good.
But with reasons for God, we did talk a little bit about morality could be a reason for God's existence. That's how we got into meaning, actually. Yeah. That people search for meaning. That could mean that there's a God. Is, I think, where does that come from? We talked about that some earlier.
Yeah.
Then the main one, which people bring up a lot, and I want to hear what you guys have to say about this one, is just creation. Where did everything come from?
Right.
I believe the Big Bang happened, but then the question would be, where did the Big Bang come from? And so I want to hear what you guys have to say about that.
All right. Yeah, Isaiah, if you don't mind me going first, or if you want to go first, that's also fine.
Well, might as well just be real short and quick.
All right. So I think.
This is what happened
Okay, you can go first then.
in the beginning. Shit got so fucking crazy that it became the universe. The universe came, the moon and stars,
Okay.
the gold, the lead, the iron, the zinc, the copper, the all the
Yeah.
elements on the periodic table,
Yeah. So you're basically just saying like it happened.
gas, space,
Okay.
everything.
No, we
compact.
can
Everything got
tell that it
hot.
happened because it happened.
Yeah, that's. I mean, we agree with you. You're not wrong, but.
But everything before then, shit, nigga, I don't know.
All right.
There ain't really something for me to say other than that. Like,
Okay,
shit.
and I think that's.
I'm not to people that study that shit.
And I think that's a valid answer, and that's kind of that would be the too long of my answer, which would more be though that it's not that there's a difference between I don't know and I can't know, and I think what a lot of people confuse when they hear someone say I don't know is I can't know. So when someone's like asks you how did the universe begin or how do you think the universe began, say, I don't know, they're almost taking that on as a challenge that. They're saying that they have this ultimate understanding that's possible to know. And my position would be that I don't know how it began, but I do see, and I've personally looked at and studied these models of the Big Bang Theory, and yes, it is a sound explanation, and it's consistent with the laws and theories that we have today. That doesn't mean that it's true, and I certainly don't assert that it's true, but based on the evidence and the things that I can observe, I'm led to, and this is like what I was talking before, I'm led to no other conclusion that it is the best model that we have of explaining the beginning of the universe. Not that it's true and not that it's false, but that it is the best model, and whether or not I'm right, I am still justified in accepting that model because it is currently the best that we have. And
Well,
so even if I'm wrong, even if I'm objectively wrong, I would still be comfortable knowing that I was justifiably wrong, in that I made a conclusion based on all of the evidence that I could gather, and all of the the knowledge that I have, that even if I was wrong, I would still be okay with that. So my goal really isn't knowing absolute truth, because I guess what I would say is I can't know what's absolutely true. The best that I can know is the models that I have that try to reach absolute truth with keeping in mind that I haven't actually obtained that knowledge. So, and the reason for that is because if I assume that I've attained that knowledge, and I could be wrong about it, I'm no longer going to look for answers. And if I no longer look for answers, then I'm going to forever have that false or correct belief about reality. But sure. Well, you can go ahead. I'm pretty much done.
I was just gonna say, if you get to the end, you will for sure know, and there won't be anything to contradict it. If you find out the truth in a way, there won't be anything to contradict what you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, it depends how pedantic you want to be about no. So if you want to define no as absolute knowledge, that is just complete rules that govern all of reality or every kind of beyond reality, that's one thing. I would say that how I define no is when I say that I know something, what I'm saying is that I'm as certain as I can be about that with and having with having my reasons to justify it. So when I say no, I'm not assuming that I have absolute knowledge or absolute certainty. I'm just saying that to avoid obfuscation of what I'm really trying to say. I'm very confident in that because of the reasons that I have of believing that, which would be evidence. I wouldn't say that the universe just popped into existence and we've just been here and we have all these false memories and that the universe was really just created 1 second ago, but we have all these memories that are just, fake, and, there's, like, theories of that. I wouldn't... And again, it's a sound theory because it can't be falsified. You can't prove that the universe wasn't created 1 second ago and that we just had these memories implanted into our brains, like programmed. It's
so, like,
you
the
can't.
goal of science will be like a unrefutable, like,
Well, my
like something that's just like intrinsically.
that's
like,
what science is trying to do, but science has to admit that it can't do that, or else it will never do that. Do you see what I'm saying? Because if it ever accepts that it reached its end goal, then it will no longer progress any further. And if it's wrong about reaching its end goal, then it will no longer progress any further, and it will forever be stuck in a state of ignorance. So what I'm saying is, my position is more that we cannot know, and that's what keeps us striving to know. So again, I get a really long answer to a simple question, I guess. Or not a simple question, but it's still a long answer.
So we're like, we'll forever just be like, keep trying to get to the next level.
Yeah, and so the thing is, here's the thing.
Runner.
And I would say it like this: if you cannot know, if you say that you cannot be absolutely certain about something, that allows the possibility of you reaching absolute certainty, because you will forever keep pushing until you get there, if you get there. Whereas if you have another position where you accept something with absolute certainty, you could be wrong about that, and if you're wrong about that, then you will never reach absolute certainty. So you either can't know and you will, or you assert you know and you might not. And my position is just that I think it's more logical to go down the path of you can't know, but it's possible that you could. And so you'll get to a point, and the reason why it's so crazy is because there's things that people can be absolutely certain about that they're justified in being absolutely certain about. Like gravity, it's the famous example. You can say that I'm absolutely certain that this object that I'm holding will drop to the floor if I let go of it. And it will do that most likely every single time. I can't prove that it won't. Maybe the universe, 5 minutes from now, gravity reverses. Who knows? There's no way. I don't have that answer because I can't falsify it. So it's what I was saying before. You can make any claim that you want to, and say that I can't falsify it, therefore it's a possibility. That's not true, because you could claim two possibilities that contradict each other. I could say it's possible that gravity will work as usual in the next 5 minutes, and it's also possible that it won't. That can't be true. Two opposing things can't be possible at the same time.
You can say it was a law up until a point.
Right, but they can't coexist as a contradiction. So they're in 5 minutes from now is a point in time, so they can't both be possible in one point in time. Is what I'm saying.
Do you think universal laws can change?
I don't believe, nor do I disbelieve that they can. I mean, again, it's something.
I'm saying, like you said, like gravity worked up until a certain point and then it just flipped.
Yeah. I mean, if I was more scientifically literate, I might have a better answer, because I think I read that, at least if we're following the Big Bang Theory, that that was how it worked. So the four forces of the universe were actually all one force at one point, because they were all together and working together. And so they were, in a way, different in that point in time. And the equations that we have now might have been different for, the origin of the universe. I can't really give any further elaboration on that, because I just don't know. Yeah.
Like, I just imagine in, 10 billion years. Like, you remember the Ed, Edd n Eddy video you showed me?
Yeah.
You remember Kevin when he went in the tent and he was like, "Oh my God, what is this?"
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Perfection." Yeah. I just imagine that's like "Oh my God, what is this?" He's like, "It's perfection."
That may or may not be true, but anyway, Chris, were you listening?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So, what do you have to say about that?
Bitch.
I don't know what to say, because, I mean, so then how would we know anything? I'm just confused.
Yeah.
My brain just really hurts right now.
Okay.
I just don't know what. I
No, yeah,
honestly just don't know
that's
what to say.
well. That basically, well, if I could just, because that's essentially what I'm saying is that, and again, the way that I define know, is that is absolute certainty, because that's knowledge. Knowledge is what is true. It's facts, and if something is a fact, then you say that it's absolutely true. You cannot dispute facts. It just doesn't make any sense. So what I'm saying is, Chris, you're right. Is that I'm essentially saying that, from my point of view, that we can't know, and the reason and the benefit of taking this position of cannot know something is that it can push us forward to the point where we may actually know something as objectively true, or we may reach something that is objectively true, but we just won't know it. Like, we will not realize it. So it's like, if you okay, so for example, we could be objectively certain, or I'm sorry, it could be objectively true that Einstein's equation of gravity is perfect. That could be exactly true. He could have nailed it. What I'm saying is that regardless of whether or not that is absolutely true, we should still assume that there is more to know about it, or that we could even be wrong. So we will either be in an endless state, because here's the thing, if you try to change it, and it's absolutely true, then you'll never falsify it. So it will always be true. So you'll either be in this state of ignorance forever, but you'll actually have objective truth, or you're in another state where you assert that you know something, but if it's wrong, then you can never reach objective truth. Because if you assert that you know it with 100% certainty, then there's no reason to look any further, because that's kind of like, what you accept as reality. So, and it's kind of like, it's kind of like in quantum mechanics, which, I'm not trying to make it more confusing than it already. Hello? Did my internet shit itself?
No, we were just thinking about it.
Oh, okay. And, nobody has to respond to this right away, but this can also go in the other direction where, you can claim to know something and be absolutely certain about it, and you can be right about that. But the reason why it's just that, so here's the thing, you can be right, but you also can be wrong. There's no way that you can be absolutely certain about being absolutely certain. So if you could, then yeah, follow that methodology. But as far as we know, that's impossible, and in some ways even a contradiction. So it's, yeah, again, I kind of stand by what I said, I think.
I mean, it makes sense to me. I thought Nick left the group for a second. Damn, you missed all the action.
Yeah.
That was really, really thought-provoking.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about it now, but I've thought about this for a while. This isn't just something that I just thought of. It's something that I've always had a position on. And I haven't been able to falsify it or come up with a counterexample. It's, and it applies to absolutely everything, even in daily life. People assume that they're right all the time. And when they assume that they're right, there's always a possibility that they're wrong. And if they assume that they're right and they're wrong, it's a very bad consequence. At least it can be a very bad consequence. Whereas if they never assume that they're right, then they will never have a false expectation, because they will always expect to be wrong as well. So, yeah.
Damn, did anybody else come up with that?
Probably.
Oh damn.
I mean,
was gonna say,
I have not studied epistemology, but I would assume that that's pretty foundational for epistemology.
I was gonna say you could hit up your boy on whatever his name is, your teacher.
Brett?
Yeah, Brett might be like, oh shit, let me give that to my colleagues and tell them you came up with that. They'll probably get like some whack ass Peace Prize or something, Nobel Prize. Like, oh my god, you nigga's a genius. And then they find out you got autism and they take that shit away. Like, oh,
Yeah.
wouldn't that be some shit? Has there ever been like an autistic Nobel Prize? Yeah, well, has there ever been an autistic Nobel Prize winner?
I'm like having a brain blast. I'm trying to think of because I'm trying to think of a counter position to my belief
Bro, I think you'd hurt yourself.
or my position. I don't know if I'd even call it a belief. That's just how I think about it. I don't really have a
You're
choice.
like Jim Neutron in that animation.
Yeah. I guess if you oh yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I was gonna say I'm thinking as well. What popped into my mind was the absolute certainty about the claim that we cannot absolutely know anything.
I was thinking about that too. Yeah. Because that's
My brain hurts too.
because, no,
I'm
because,
gonna watch videos on epistemology this week now.
yeah, me too. Because here's the thing: is that I'm making a claim that you can't be absolutely certain about being absolutely certain, and because I'm making that claim, I need some kind of proof or reasoning for that claim, and I don't really have any right now. So I guess we could just end it here and pick up and do some research and think about it more, and then revisit it next week because I think it's a whole subject that we might both need to spend more time on.
Yeah, we've been talking for about 2 hours now.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to carry on with another topic, I'm perfectly fine with that. It's completely up to you. I can go all night, but.
Oh no, this is good. We usually end around 2 hours, and I think that's a good time slot for this.
Yeah.
Always seems to go well.
All right, then I guess to recap. I'm sorry, what?
I say you were really trying to brain blast.
I guess to recap, really what we're trying to figure out now is, if you can be absolutely certain about being absolutely certain, because if that's the case, then I'm wrong. Then you can know something. You can be absolutely certain about something, in which case it wouldn't make sense to assume that you'll never know. So I guess it's kind of elaborating on that. And how can we provide... Huh?
You can be absolutely certain that you'll never know.
Well, I can't, actually, because... Well, I'm sorry, say that again?
You can be absolutely certain that you'll never know.
Absolutely certain that you'll never know.
Hey, you can be absolutely certain that you'll never know.
Well, that's my position, so I would agree with you, but I can't... It's my... I guess I would say it's a temporary position, but if I said it was a temporary position, then I'm saying that I'm not absolutely certain, because I'm willing to change my position. So, I would say that... you know what? I would actually say maybe not. Because if I'm sticking by my position, then my position is that you can never be absolutely certain about anything. And that includes being absolutely certain about what I can know. Because maybe there is an enlightening point somewhere down the road where you will have this objective grasp of what's absolutely true, and you will also know that you have that grasp, or you'll realize it. I don't know. So... But again, the only way to reach that conclusion is by assuming that you'll never know. Because otherwise, if you hit a wall and you're wrong, you'll never get past that wall.
Yeah.
So, again, I can't...
Makes sense.
Yeah, I can't seem to falsify the justification for assuming that you'll never know, because to me, that will always either reach absolute truth or infinitely strive to do so. Whereas immediately asserting that you know something to be absolutely true may be wrong. And in which case, you will progress no further. So the question is, can you reliably be right? Because here's the thing, you can guess. You can make a guess, assume that your guess is right, and assume that you're absolutely certain about it. You can totally do that. But that doesn't mean that it's reliable. The question is it reliable? Can you repeatedly do it and always be absolutely right? I could guess that there's a UFO outside of my house right now, and as absurd as that sounds, I could be right, and it would just be a lucky guess. But I would have no rhyme or reason to asserting that, even though it's true. And so if there's no rhyme or reason to it, then I wouldn't say it's reliable. In other words, I would rather have a justified wrong answer than a right guessed answer. And by the way, just because it's justified and it's wrong doesn't mean that it won't eventually become right, because that's under the same position of assuming that you'll never know, and so you'll always try to correct your stance. Huh?
Something can be proven wrong, and then more facts get proved, like added, and then it gets proven true again. That could happen.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Basically.
Oh, so we want to say that
what we know is based on all the facts that we have, and it's based on like observation through experimentation.
Yeah. What were you saying, Chris?
Yeah. Go ahead.
We want to say that there is something that's objectively true, but we can't be certain that we know it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's fair to say. Yeah.
And I guess if you want to, you can rephrase it as, we can't be certain that we'll realize it, because realizing is like being aware of. And so, can you be aware that you have attained absolute truth? And can you be aware that you've attained absolute truth? I would say, if you were, I can't even say that it's impossible that you could be deceived. If you can be deceived, here's the thing, if it's possible for you to be deceived, then it is impossible for you to be completely certain that you know something, if you know some absolute truth. So you would have to be indeceivable, in which case we would never know, because unless humans, you can say if humans evolve to the point where we become unable to be deceived, then I would say that if you are aware of absolute truth, then you can be aware of something being absolutely true. But until that point, I would disagree with that. And humans are extremely susceptible to being deceived. We're deceived every single day. We're deceived every time we use our senses. So, I don't know if it's even possible to never be able to be deceived.
Nick deceived me.
That's true, he did. He deceived me as well.
Give any input. Where the fuck is he at?
But how did Nick deceive you?
I thought he was gonna join.
Oh. He also deceived you many a time in Minecraft.
Oh god.
Yeah. I thought he was gonna play like a normal person, but then he just ended up tricking me because he's a terrible person.
Nick is low-key the answer to our deep philosophical questions.
We can be absolutely certain Nick will agree.
Yeah.
Anyways.
But yeah, I'm gonna think about that more, and then I'm gonna do a lot of research, and I'm gonna see if I change my position on that.
Let's do it.
All right, guys. This is a great. Go love yourself. This is a great place to end, I think. So, thank you again, Chris and Isaiah.
I do it. That's the only way you get him.
As always, I hope I wasn't too aggressive or greedy with the talking time in the conversation. Sometimes I just
No.
can't help myself.
Oh, no.
Nick's typing. We'll say something to get him in here so he can give his contribution before it ends.
All right, let me just get.
I think there's too much to sum up before.
Yeah. Maybe Nick's watching the stream. Maybe that's why he's not in the call. I don't know. Even though it says 0 concurrent viewers. Hold on, let me ask him.
We need your final. We need his final thoughts. What's it?
I mean, I didn't even tell him where we were streaming this, so I, unless he just guessed.
There's no way. I doubt he's watching this, but
I don't think he is.
you say you think he is?
I don't think he is.
Yeah, probably not.
I wouldn't expect it, and there's no viewers.
There's no what?
You said there's no viewers. On
Oh
the
yeah,
screen
yeah.
right
There's no. Well, yeah. At least on my screen. So I mean, maybe if I refresh. I don't know.
Can you know if your screen is right, Will?
Actually,
No.
I can know. Well, never mind. I can at least say with confidence that it can deceive me, because there's been cases where it says 0 concurrent viewers, but it actually lied. So I was deceived.
Everything's a distraction. We're constantly being deceived.
So I can know that I was deceived in the past.
Is this dude gonna join, bro? I just want his final thoughts. I thought he was gonna be here.
Oh my
So
god.
where's Josh? What the fuck? Josh. Final thought. Whoa.
Yeah.
Can you ask Josh what he thinks about all this? Because you're right next to him.
He's been hearing this whole thing, hasn't
Oh, I think Josh is sleeping right now.
he?
Dude, it's impossible. He'll never be a part of this if he just
So
doesn't.
I assumed you weren't interested. I'm not subbed to that channel. Wow.
Rip.
I mean,
Isaiah, are you subbed to JW's band?
Yeah, I comment on it like frequently.
I commented on the last video, Will. I forget what I said. Did you see it?
was it one of the testing videos?
Hold on. Let me go look. I'll see. Can I look at my? Can I look at my comments?
I think
Not
so.
only do I comment on the videos, I'm in a good majority of them now. Which is surprising to me.